Hey folks, and welcome to Truck King. We all know that off-road trucks are huge business these days, and even the smallest, least truck-like trucks out there have been given the off-road treatment. Today we're going to put these two to the test. That is the Honda Ridgeline Trailsport, and that is the Ford Maverick Tremor. And yes, we're going to take them off-road into the mud and see how they perform. Right off the top, let me address the comparison here because yes, it's not perfect apples to apples, but there is a lot of things that are similar here. First, the differences. The Ridgeline is commonly grouped in with the mid-size trucks. The Ford Maverick here is what we call a compact truck. Now, the actual size difference, the Honda is 10 inches longer, about 6 inches wider, and it has 5 extra inches of wheelbase. So yes, the Honda is just inarguably a larger vehicle, but that's where really the differences end, and there's a ton of similarities. For example, both of these are front-wheel drive based, all-wheel drive setups. Both of them are also unibody pickup trucks. There's no frame here. So while it's not perfect size-wise, these two still are a pretty good matchup for a comparison, and the fact that they both have off-road models now, well, that got me excited and really wanting to test them out head-to-head. So now that I've got that out of the way, let me touch on the powertrains. The Honda Ridgeline can only be had with one engine. That's a 3.5 liter V6. It makes 280 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque, and that is sent through a 9-speed automatic. Now the Ford Maverick over here can be had with two different engines. The base engine is now this 2-liter EcoBoost, and I say that because when the Maverick launched, the smaller hybrid option was the base, but there was so much demand for the hybrid that Ford actually swapped it. So now the hybrid is the upper engine option, and the 2-liter EcoBoost is the base. So power here from this engine is 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque, and that is sent through an 8-speed automatic. So yes, there is a 30 horsepower difference, but the Maverick here actually makes more torque, so it'll be interesting to feel that out there on the trail. Let's take a closer look at the Honda now. So when you go for the Trailsport package, you do get unique styling. You get the mesh grille up there. This lower plastic is painted pewter gray, and that helps to match the wheels. We get an 18-inch set of this pewter gray on your wheels, and then probably the most significant off-road upgrade, a set of 30-inch General Grabber all-terrain tires. Those look pretty aggressive. Once again, curious to feel them when we get out there. And there is one thing which is kind of missing from this Trailsport package. That is a lift. This Honda sits at stock height. I do wish they would have brought it up a little bit. Now, we're here at the driver's side door. Let me tell you about the payload number. So right here we have 1,477 pounds of payload, which is a really solid number for a truck of this size. Now, as we get around to the back, we can take a closer look at the Ridgeline's bed. This doesn't change because it's Trailsport. This is every Ridgeline, but there's a bunch of little tricks back here I have to show you. So first of all, you can drop the tailgate normally and know it is not damped. But then you can also hinge it to the side. Now, why would you want to do that? Mainly to access the Ridgeline's in-bed trunk. This is what I consider to be a brilliant idea. You actually get a lockable trunk, keep things out of the weather. For most people, you're hauling, groceries most of the time, simple things like that. So you toss them in there, you don't have to worry about it rolling all over your bed. I'm actually surprised that no other brands copied Honda on this. When they first brought this out, I figured for sure we would see more trunks and beds, but that never happened. Now, outside of that, we do have lights here in the bed. On our Honda today, we have a hard tonneau cover too, which is pretty handy. And then we also get this little guy over here, which is, if I can get it open, it's a little stiff. It's a little storage box just on the side of the bed there. Once again, helps you, stash your stuff. Maybe you got tools or something. you can toss them in there. So the other nice thing about the Ridgeline, even though it's a small truck, the bed is actually pretty big. The floor length here is just over 5 feet to the tailgate, and then between the wheel wells, and you'll also notice those wheel wells are pretty small to begin with, but between them, you're getting 50 inches of width. So yes, the bed is long and wide. It's just kind of shallow. It's not a very deep bed compared to most other trucks, but as small trucks go, this one has a very legitimately sized bed. And then the final number I'll throw at you is the tow rating off that 2-inch hitch right down there, 5,000 pounds here on the Ridgeline. Now let's look at the Tremor, and like the Ridgeline, you do get unique styling. You get a different grille up there. You're going to see these orange Tremor accents all over the truck, and then even these kind of blacked out light surrounds. That's all unique to the Tremor. Now, functional upgrades, the first one I really like is the bumper down there is revised to give you a better approach angle, and you'll see those big exposed tow hooks in the front end, also painted orange, but I love to see those. Now, the other functional upgrade, which I really appreciate, a 1-inch lift does come to this Tremor, so it is sitting higher off the ground. Now, next up, wheels and tires. That's a 17-inch wheel, and these are a set of Falcon Wild Peaks. They don't look quite as aggressive as what's on the Honda, so again, it'll be interesting to see how those feel out in the real world. Now, next, we get to the driver's side door, so let's check the payload. 1,148 pounds. Feels like a fair number for a truck of this size, but absolutely does lag behind the Ridgeline. And then we get back here to the bed, and I already mentioned this. This is one of the areas where these trucks do differ because the Maverick is just smaller. No damp tailgate here either. At the floor here, you're talking about 48 inches of length. And then between the wheel wells, it's just 42 inches. And those are some big, pronounced wheel wells. So yes, the bed is straight up smaller, although this bed is deeper than what we have over there on the Ridgeline. So I do appreciate that. Now there's a couple little tricks I can show you here. We do have the movable cleat system. Always nice to have different tie-down cleats that you can move around. There are some hard D-rings down here in the floor, and then actually 2 tie-down points at your rear end, which I like too. And then some of my favorite tie-downs on Fords these days, right back here, they actually put tie-downs on the side of the tailgate. The whole idea there is if you do have plywood that comes out onto your gate, or even an ATV or a snowmobile, you can use those to actually tie things down to the tailgate. Now, one other thing, we'll swap spots here. There is power in this bed. It's only 400 watts, so this is not Pro Power onboard like the F-150 has. Still nice to have a plug though, and then you also get your button right there for the LED lights, which is cool. 2 more little things, just like the Ridgeline. A little storage bin over here, toss some stuff in there, and then you can close it up. And now this is totally unique to the Maverick. Right here, Ford actually runs 12-volt power. So if you want to wire something into your bed, say some more lights because you've put some kind of rack back here, you actually have power on both sides of the bed already run for you. So Ford is really considering the fact that people buying these trucks are customizing them, and they're offering you the power where you're going to need it rather than having you fishing wires through the truck. Now the final number I do have to spit out at you is the tow rating. And sadly, on the Maverick Tremor, you cannot get the max tow package. So right here, we just have 2,000 pounds of overall towing. Now, on most Mavericks that aren't the Tremor and not the hybrid, you can get the 4K towing package, which brings the number up to 4,000 pounds. But yes, as it sits today, this truck maxes out at 2,000 pounds of towing. Let's take a look at the rear seat space now, and actually both of these trucks are pretty similar. So I like to start with the car seat situation. In the Maverick, you're getting lower latch on both sides, and then I'll show you what this looks like when you fold down the back. You do have 3 top tethers along that rear end. Now these headrests, if you pop them out of here, I can try and do it quickly. Of course, it's never as easy as you want it to be, but I'll pop them out just so you can actually see how flat this goes. So there you go, and the answer actually is not all that flat. This is something they actually fixed in the new Ranger. They made sure that when you fold this down, it goes properly flat. But yeah, this stays up on quite an angle. And you can see there's a lot of exposed stuff back here behind this seat. Ford doesn't really bother to tuck anything away. So I guess that's good for maintenance, but maybe not so good if you get somebody throwing stuff back here, or maybe even a little kid messing with stuff. So now though, let me climb in and I'll show you the space. Drop those there. Oh, before I do, can't also forget that the bottom here does flip up, and they give you these really massive storage bins. You can see Ford has put in all of these spots for different cleats or different things you want to add in there. And then one thing Ford does is they'll actually give you the exact dimension of all those slots, so you can 3D print your own little holders or dividers to go under here. So yes, some nice storage under the seat. Now we'll climb in. So this is 36.9 inches of rear seat legroom, and it's plenty for me. I stand at 6'2", just over 300 pounds. I have loads of headroom, a good extra inch there, which is nice. And then this is my seating position. I sat up there and put it to a comfortable position for myself. So I could absolutely sit behind myself. I'm a little bit into the seat, but just barely. And again, the real key is the floor is pretty low here. It's not too tall. So the Maverick, and I think we've been saying this since day one, it's way bigger inside than you might expect. And that goes for the front and the back seat. So I do appreciate that. Now for amenities down here, I do have an actual 3-prong plug right here, and that's 400 watts. And then also USB-A and USB-C. So you do have some power in the back of the Maverick. And then the other thing I'll show you, and you can even look at the door there, there's a bunch of moldings in the door to hold different sizes of water bottles and different things. So I appreciate having that storage as well. And now we'll hop over to the Honda. Now the Ridgeline. So first of all, the baby seat situation, you do have 3 top tethers, but then you actually get 3 different positions for the lower latch. One on the passenger side, one on the driver's side, and then you get this middle position if you wanted to slide this baby seat over here. Now, if you were to use the middle position, you're also using one on the driver's side, so it's not like you can truly get 3 car seats across using the lower latch, but still, Honda does give you more options when it comes to where you're going to put your baby seats. Now I'll show you the storage. The back of this seat does not fold down at all in the Ridgeline, but what does happen is the bottoms fold up. Honda calls these their magic seats, and they give you all of this space. And unlike the Ford, there's no bins down here on the floor, just this one little channel here for the actual seat supports. But outside of that, it's nearly a flat floor. This comes down to personal preference. I kind of prefer the Honda because I like having more space and I'm not sort of limited by what I can put into those bins. On the flip side, I can see how the Ford would be good for things like groceries. Just toss them in the bins and they won't roll around too much. So there is magic seats. Now let me climb in here. So this is 36.7 inches of second row legroom. Yes, the Ridgeline has slightly less legroom than the Maverick does, but it doesn't really feel that way in the real world. Again, this is my comfortable seating position up here, and I definitely have a little more room than I had in the Maverick, but I feel equally as comfortable. Honestly, I have just enough headroom, actually maybe a little bit less in the Honda, but I do fit in here fine. My feet are not too tall, anything like that. So both of these back seats are legitimately comfortable for full-size and more over than full-size adults, and I appreciate that. And then finally, amenities. Down here in the Ridgeline, we get more. We do have heated rear seats, which is pretty cool. You're getting your HVAC controls and a 12-volt power outlet down there as well. So as the back seats go in terms of space, these two trucks are actually really even with each other. Now, there is one thing you have to consider. The Ridgeline is wider, so if I have 2 people back here, we won't be quite as close together, and especially if you have 3 people back here, the Ridgeline's going to be better. And I have a couple more options here in my Ridgeline for controls, and I appreciate that as well. Now we're going to look underneath the Maverick. So first of all, I already pointed them out, but some nice big exposed tow hooks up there. I love that. Now this very first plate here, this fascia, is still just plastic, but that leads right into this guy, which is a seriously large skid plate, and it is steel. That's my magnet to check on it. So yeah, nice to have this really big steel skid plate right up front. This is going to absorb the majority of the damage. And that's basically it for protection. As we roll back, we get these two kind of soft plastic, almost material-like skid plates. So they're not going to protect all that much from punctures or anything like that. Now, as we get to the very back, I can show you, we do have unique suspension everywhere on this truck. The tuning is different, but then one of this Maverick Tremor's tricks is right here. That is a twin clutch rear drive unit. So essentially both of those rear tires have their own clutch that controls the power getting to them. It allows the Maverick to split the power side to side better, and it allows it to have a locker. Now, no, it's not a traditional locker. Both of those clutches, though, can lock up at the same time and allow power to get to both wheels. I think the downfall of a system like this is it probably can overheat in extreme uses. It's probably not going to stay totally locked up. But more so than a lot of these vehicles which claim to be ready for off-roading, that is a real legitimate difference that you're only going to get on the Tremor. So I do appreciate that from Ford. Now let's look underneath the Ridgeline, and no, there are no exposed tow hooks up here on the front end, which is kind of frustrating, but there is a tow hook right over here. And yes, that is buried pretty low underneath the truck, so if this thing was sunk in the mud, good luck getting to this. Although, thankfully, there is a tow hook. You do have to have one if you want to claim to be an off-roader, so nice to have that. And then when it comes to protection, not a ton. This is all just plastic, plastic, plastic. This guy right here is the one steel skid plate that's added to the Trailsport package, and that is protecting your oil pan. Now, just because of the way this engine is designed, and it is a front-wheel drive setup, that oil pan would be hanging down and be the first thing to take a beating, and that's a problem. So I appreciate this one skid plate. It's in the right spot. I just wish there was more, because as you can see, essentially everything else is opened up. Now, there is this guy over here. That's plastic, and it's actually fairly thin plastic. It's probably some type of composite, but even still, that's the one other plate you get for protection, rolling all the way to the back, and it ends right there. And now, just like the Maverick, like I said, front-wheel drive setup, you can see the prop shaft running to your rear differential, but no, this doesn't have any tricks like the Maverick does with its twin clutch, although Honda does claim that it can split 100% of the rear power to either wheel. So they also say that they can put the power to the wheel that needs it, and that's something we're going to put to the test right now. And now it is time to dive in with the Ridgeline. So first of all, we're going to put it into mud mode because we are going to be dealing with some mud right now. And I'll also drop the numbers on you, and quite frankly, they're not great. The approach angle here, just over 20 degrees, and then breakover and departure come in at 19.6 degrees. And then the number that's most unfortunate, the overall ground clearance here, just 7.6 inches. So yeah, the numbers are not that impressive, and it's the one area where I do wish Honda had given us that little bit of a lift. But we're still going to try the ditch crossing, although we're going to try the shallowest section of the ditch. Usually we go through the deep part, but not with this truck, either of these ones. We're going to try it here in the shallowest part. So we're going to slowly walk in here, and we'll see if the approach angle is enough, because I'm not looking to break these things today, but this should be a struggle for the all-wheel drive, and that's what I'm curious to see. So here comes my front driver's side. Dropping in. So far, so good. No problems. When the issue comes is when I start to try to climb the bank on the far side. Right about here. I'm going to go window up in case the mud starts flying. And let's see what kind of grip I get out of her right here. Nice. Really decent grip, no slippage at all. And I'm going to chalk that up to these tires. I said it off the top. These are fairly aggressive looking all-terrains, and they had no problem getting me through there. And let me talk you through the conditions, because that's important. The truck says that it's 8 degrees Celsius today, and it is the springtime, so everything is super wet and really slick. So yeah, we're definitely trying the mud. We're trying the mud capabilities out today. So let's go find some more mud and see how it continues to do. Now let's go into some thicker mud. So I have the truck in mud mode, and here we go. Come around this corner, come around this corner. I'm sliding wide. Oh, it's going all over the place because it's so slick out here. And now we're gonna go through this little hole. Not too much speed. Oh, definitely dragging there. And out the other side. So clearance wasn't quite good enough for that water hole I was dragging. But yeah, the power here feels good, I will say that. And the other thing that I can feel it doing is the torque vectoring. As I'm coming around the corner, I could feel the truck trying to send more power to the outside. Now, I already told you, it's super slick out here today, so I still slid wide. But you could feel it just from the driver's seat that the Honda was doing everything in its power to straighten itself up and get me around that corner. And then the fact that I'm in mud mode just means that all 4 tires are getting power preemptively. So rather than reacting to the obstacle, it's making sure the power is getting there right off the bat. So far, felt okay. Now let's go do it in the Tremor. Now it's Maverick Tremor time, and let me start with the numbers, and all of them are better than the Ridgeline. So ground clearance here, 9.4 inches, and yes, that's 1 inch better than every other Maverick in the lineup. The approach angle, just over 30 degrees, so 10 degrees better than the Honda, and part of that is the lift, but part of it is also the unique front bumper. The breakover angle here is 19.6 degrees, actually the exact same as the Honda, and then the departure angle, 22.2 degrees. So that's all better. Now, the other thing we have here, of course, are drive modes. So we're going to put it over into mud and ruts mode right now. And then we're going to lock it in 4-wheel drive. And we're going to turn on the rear locker. So this is now in as off-road a mode as you can put it into. Plus it has an L. Now L does stand for low, but in this case, there is no transfer case here, so there's no actual gearing change. L is essentially just gonna lock you into first gear to make sure you don't get any weird abrupt shifts. And that's all the tricks in the book turned on. Let's try our shallow ditch crossing, shall we? So the Honda really didn't slip coming through here at all. I thought I'd get more. So let's see if the Maverick's better. Clearance-wise, just knowing those numbers, I'm less worried for sure about the front end. And here comes the climb right about now. And beautiful, bumped through, no problem there either. And of course, that wasn't really about clearance because I went to that shallow point. I was expecting some more slip from the mud, but it didn't come. So, right on Maverick. Let's go try the other muddy section and see how you come through that. Sticking with mud and ruts mode, let's go. So first thing, we're going to come around this muddy corner. Let's see if it handles any better. Oh, it does handle a bit better than the Honda. It made that turn better. Whoa, I'm getting real sideways now, though. I spoke too soon and coming into my hole, not too fast. Ooh, definitely dragged the belly a little bit here too, but less than in the Honda. Interesting. So yeah, the turn in, the initial bite that I got out of the Ford actually felt better than the Ridgeline coming around that super muddy corner. But from there on out, it felt about the same. Although I can comment on the power. I'm preferring the Ridgeline so far. A little bit of that V6 naturally aspirated power, linear power, where the Ford here feels like I'm digging in, then finally I get the power that I really want. But let's keep going, and I'll keep being able to feel it and tell you about it. Okay, folks, now I want it to get a little harder, so we are actually going to make our way to the left hook. I'm not going to do the deepest part of the left hook because I just know these trucks would be dragging, especially the Honda. But we're going to try the back half. And right now you can see I'm straddling a rut because I know if I drop in there, same thing, I'll just be dragging a fascia. So I am trying to have some mechanical sympathy out here today. But you can't avoid this pit, and this is pure mud. And again, there is no momentum helping me right now. This is all grip. And so far, man, I'm impressed by both sets of tires. I thought by now I'd maybe have a clear winner in terms of tires. But honestly, they're both doing exactly what I want them to do. And once again, I just creeped through there, although that was a pretty hard hit on a rock right as I came out of the pit. But yeah, solid grip there. And now we can see what it's going to do on the back half of the left hook. And now we're going to get into the hairier sections. The back half of the left hook has been really chewed up, partially by the Nissan Frontier we had out here recently, but just by every truck we've run through. So these ruts have gotten deeper, and we've tore right through all the grass that was here, and it's really sloppy mud. And I was literally falling all over the place just walking the trail, so it's quite slippery too. But we're gonna give it a shot, and hopefully I can make it up the hill. And at that point, I'm going to turn around and come back through this. But for now, I just got to keep feeling this Honda out. And so far, it keeps feeling good, so it keeps making me want to go deeper. First little hole right here. Definitely pushing some with the fascia, but not too bad. And keep coming back to the fact that you guys can see I've got zero momentum. And yet the tires keep finding grip. Trying to stay out of the ruts a little bit right here. Although my back half just slid in. Can only ever stay out of them so much. Uh-oh, uh-oh. My back half is firmly in the rut and my front half is out of the rut. But I'm gonna fall back in right about now. And rub the belly there. But so far so good. Now this is my last sort of deep-ish hole that I was worried about. Pushing some ice chunks with my nose. But so far so good. All right, Honda. Now the next tricky section starts here with the hill. We'll see how it does. And now for what should very clearly be the toughest section of this trail. It's a muddy, rutted mess, and then it transitions right into the hill. So I'm gonna have to get a little momentum going here. But I am gonna wait until the last second to do so. I'm firmly in the ruts now too. There's not much I can do about that. Okay, here we go, everybody. Here we go. Power, 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 power. Oh, I'm sliding, I'm sliding, I'm sliding. And I'm stuck. Well, as you saw, and as everyone always reminds me, I did get out of the power there, but the trees on my passenger side are so dang close in this section that if I stay in it, I'm just gonna slide too far sideways. So, let's back up. We're gonna lock her down in first gear. We've still got it in mud and ruts. Let's see if I can't work my way out of this a little bit towards the driver's side here. Come on, power, 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 power. Nope. The good news is in reverse, back into these ruts, I still have a pretty good amount of grip. And I've now dug myself into some ruts here too. So I'm gonna go maybe one more time here, but then it's gonna be time to go get the winch because I'm just gonna keep digging in deeper and making the situation worse. If only I could get up a little more on the driver's side. I'm actually just trying to back up a little more, oh, even in reverse, I'm not going anywhere. Okay, last time. Here we go, baby. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, there we go. That's where I wanted to be. That's where I want to be. Keep the power up, Honda. Why are you killing my power? Honda! That was, yes, 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 Honda. Okay, I don't know why. Okay, that was frustrating. That was not me coming off the power. That was the Honda absolutely backing my power off. Traction control shows off, and I'm in mud mode. I hate when that happens, when it's like that. I think if the power had kept up, I might have made it. Traction control mode cannot be changed during current drive mode. I thought maybe if I push and hold sometimes you can get a second setting out of it. But no, so even in mud mode, even though it says my traction control's off, there's still some traction control that was trying to do something there. I'm gonna put it into sand mode. Maybe that'll let me slip a little bit more. Because I am actually so close! Yes, Honda! Come on, come on, come on, come on! Yes, Ridgeline! Oh, I love it when I don't have to get the tractor. Well, what can you say? Tires, tires, tires. It always comes back to tires. It is so slick out here. That mud down there is fresh. It's freshly churned through. But you know what? The tires had just enough grip, and once I found them onto a slightly drier line, they were able to pull me through. Everything there felt great, except for that traction control thing. You know, in mud mode, I feel like the vehicle should allow me to just spin those tires for as long as I need to, but it was absolutely cutting my power, which was pretty frustrating. Right when I didn't want it to, it was cutting the power. And sand mode actually seemed to help a little bit, because sand is the same idea. It'll just let it churn away. But give the Ridgeline credit, man. It made it up the hill. I'm impressed. All right, turned around, coming back down the hill now. I do have to go back through the same mud, but downhill with the momentum, I should be okay. The one thing I want to mention is no hill descent control here in the Ridgeline, no off-road cruise control system, nothing like that. The hill descent is actually a little surprising because so many vehicles have hill descent control now, but with the kind of stuff you're doing in this, I don't necessarily think you need it. Plus, as you can see right here, I'm just walking my way down with the brakes, and no problem at all. Now, the other thing I'm feeling out of the Ridgeline, more so than most of the trucks we test, is it does feel a little bit lighter, and being light on your feet definitely helps out here. So, coming by this rock, and pretty soon I'm gonna stay hard passenger to stay up on the clean section of ground. Oh, sliding! And now it's time for a little bit of momentum. Here we go, Ridgeline. There we go, there we go. Sliding a little bit there. Down into the ruts. Nice, and now hopefully a nice calm, slow drive out of the mud. Belly's dragging there. Not a great feeling. Needed a bit of slip there. More belly drag. Ooh, don't love dragging that belly. Make me feel better if I had another skid plate down there, but there we go. Honda made it in, Honda made it out. Now it's the Ford's turn. And now it's left hook time here in the Tremor. So we have it in mud and ruts mode, and we're absolutely gonna lock up the rear end. That's one extra trick that the Ford has that the Honda doesn't, of course. So it'll be interesting to feel if that makes a significant difference. Now I'm going to try to recreate it. I'm just going to creep in right up until the point that I need that momentum. And we'll see if this test doesn't separate the tires a little bit further. Already less dragging on the Maverick. I'm going to keep coming back to that. You just cannot deny that the clearance is better and it feels better when you're coming through this stuff and you're not dragging your belly constantly. Yeah, good power and good grip. Oh, there, now I'm bellied. Not quite turtled though, luckily. And yeah, now we're getting to the tough part. Okay, I'm going to cheat just a little bit and try to build up a little bit of extra momentum just because I know how sloppy this section is. And maybe most curiously now, I want to see how the traction control system works if it ends up cutting my power like the Honda did. So, four-wheel drive locked, mud and ruts mode, rear end locked. Here we go, Maverick. All right, power, power, and here's the gnarly stuff. Oh, yes! Well, the Maverick walked through there. Now, yes, my momentum absolutely did help, but I'm actually going to chalk this one up to tires A. And I'll be honest, the Honda tires to my naked eye looked more aggressive, but the Maverick tires feel just as good, if not better. You know, even earlier when I said the bite on turn-in felt better, right there they felt better. But the other aspect to this, which I think is playing a role, is weight. Because this truck isn't that heavy, it really allowed me to point it, jump over and out of the ruts that I was in, and get to that dry ground that allowed me to just scamper up that hill. So, you know what? Big trucks are great, but there's something to be said for small packages and lightweight packages. And I believe, based on what I just felt, that that's one of the main factors that just set these two apart. But man, that was impressive. The Maverick just absolutely scampered up that hill, no questions asked. Turned around now, heading back down the hill, and this is my opportunity to use Ford's trail control. So I'm gonna set it at 5 kilometers per hour. Actually, let's go down to 4. Let's do 3. Let's make it really work. So my feet are off the gas, off the brakes. This is all Maverick Tremor. Fairly smooth coming down the hill. Nice. Not bad at all. And so this is off-road cruise control truly, so it'll drive for me on the flat ground too. So here's what I'm gonna do. Right about now, I'm gonna crank up the speed. 10 kilometers an hour, 14, 15. This is all trail control. I haven't touched the gas. This is all trail control doing it. Slow it down a little. Nice. So yeah, my feet are doing nothing right now, and it's plowing through. Got hung up there for a second, but figured out how to split the power. And then I do think, I'll speak to the rear locker now, I think the fact that it acts as more of a true locker, I ended up just sliding a little bit less. Whereas in the Honda, I would have to kind of break traction, the rear end would start coming around, and then it would figure out where to send the power. So once again, in off-roading, it's very important to be not reactionary, but to set things up before you get into that big, you know, off-road event. And so the fact that I was locked up here, coming in and out, the Maverick Tremor just felt more solid. It was sliding around less. It had more clearance, wasn't rubbing anywhere. I am frankly impressed that both of these trucks made it through the backside of the left hook, but the Maverick Tremor definitely did it a bit better. Quick after action report here on the Maverick Tremor. We did end up tearing this piece of sort of fabric that's down here. Now, I don't think Ford puts this here as protection. I think they're smart enough to realize this is not going to protect much. I think it's more here for probably sound deadening and then maybe aerodynamics. But still, it's worth pointing out that on an off-road truck that's going to see use in sort of gnarly areas, this stuff not only is not protecting you at all, it's actually pretty easy to tear. We obviously put a rock through right there, and then it just tore open, and there's even just a little scratching up there on the fuel tank too. So honestly, on a Tremor, I'd actually just like to see Ford get rid of this stuff rather than leave it on there and then eventually have it all be torn off. Here we are quickly on road in the Ridgeline, and I did feel obligated to come on road because honestly, you don't buy a Ridgeline to do the kind of off-roading we just did. Good to know it can do it, but no, you buy a Ridgeline for its on-road driving experience. That has always been the case. Out of the mid-size trucks, this is, I think, definitively the most comfortable and the most easy to drive of all the competitors. And what I mean by that is, yeah, the suspension is comfortable. There's no stiffness, no chatter out of the rear end. You don't even get that typical feeling of sort of lightness in the back. So the back end never feels like it wants to step out. It doesn't feel like a truck. It feels like a big car or even most modern crossovers. So for the people who want sort of the least truck-like truck in the mid-size segment, the Ridgeline is a solid option. And if you're going to live most of your life just commuting with a vehicle like this, yeah, the Ridgeline will serve you really well. Now, I am curious though how it feels in comparison to the Maverick. Now we're driving the Maverick. The first thing that jumps out at me is just how much skinnier this truck is. It feels significantly skinnier. And then I do feel like I'm feeling the shorter wheelbase, because yeah, there's just more of the kind of front to back bucking feeling, and the Maverick is just frankly stiffer than the Ridgeline is. it still kind of feels like a truck. It just has some of that traditional truck feeling where the Ridgeline doesn't. The Ridgeline absolutely feels like a big crossover or even a big car. So it does depend sort of what you're looking for out of your driving feel. But overall ride comfort, I do give that to the Ridgeline for sure. Now, the Maverick here, though, it's offering you all of the interior comfort of the Ridgeline. All of the interior amenities are just about the same. The only place where the Maverick really falls behind is in bed space, towing, and payload. Those three areas, yes, they all lack compared to that Honda, but don't you worry, because the Maverick is significantly less expensive. So smaller truck means a smaller price tag. Let's get into that now. So what are those price tags? Well, over here, this Honda Ridgeline Trailsport, as it sits, is $59,000 here in Canada. This Maverick Tremor, 49 grand Canadian. So there's a $10,000 gap between these two trucks. Now, if you're looking at which one to buy, you cannot argue with the fact that the Ridgeline tows more, it hauls more payload, and it has a bigger bed. So if those things are priorities, the Honda is the clear choice. But this video was more about Trailsport versus Tremor and talking about the packages. Obviously, the Ford Maverick Tremor takes things further. So yes, when it comes to straight up which is the better off-roader, the clear choice is that Maverick Tremor. Now, of course, though, I need to hear from you. So why don't you go into the comments, let me know which one of these two trucks you like more, which one would you buy? And as always, while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of Truck King, and then come right back here to the channel to see what we are testing next. See ya.